Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to another Brawl Stars video, and today we're going to be talking about M's attack, which is very weird and sort of unpredictable because sometimes you get like 1 tick of damage, sometimes you get 2, and obviously, optimally, you want to get 3 ticks of damage off whenever possible, but it's kind of weird where in the attack you want your opponent to be in order to get the maximum ticks of damage. So we're going to analyze a couple different situations today and put together an actual diagram of her attack, so that way you can tell exactly where you need to be inside of her attack if you want to get the maximum damage off. So let's just jump right into how we're going to do this. So I'm going to need a lot of data from a bunch of different pictures. So first I'm going to go into the training cave and of course determine the angle that this attack spreads, because it is just a sector of a circle, so we can easily just take the image, measure one side of the attack range as a line, and then rotate that line until it hits the other side of the attack, and the number of degrees we rotated it by is the angle of spread of her attack, and so that actually comes out to be 45 degrees, which is a pretty nice number to work with. So now for a diagram, we can just create an outline of like a 45 degree sector of a circle. But now comes the hard part where we have to determine at what ranges do you deal the most damage. So I took a very rigorous scientific approach to this problem, and by rigorous I mean I just attacked the bot and slowly moved up inch by inch until the amount of damage it did changed. So as you well know if you've played M's at all, at the very edge of the attack, you actually only do 1 tick of damage, but if you keep moving up ever so slightly, you will come into the zone where you do 2 ticks of damage. And then if you go a bit farther, you'll do 3 ticks of damage, and then once the enemy starts getting pretty close to you, you're gonna go down back to 2 ticks again, and then when you're very close to the enemy, you're only gonna do 1 tick of damage. So it sort of goes up and then goes down, so obviously the sweet spot's gonna be right in the middle. So I took a couple screenshots of right at the moment when the attack actually changed from dealing 2 ticks of damage to 3 ticks of damage. So I took one screenshot just before that moment and one screenshot when I was positioned just after that moment. And then what I did is I measured the pixel length of the entire attack range and the pixel length of just until the robot's hitbox. So essentially, at what percentage of the range was this robot positioned at such that it dealt 2 ticks or 3 ticks of damage. And then I took those two ratios and averaged them. So this is a bit of an estimate, but they were very close together, and I came up with a ratio of 0.846. Basically what that means is once your opponent is farther back than 85% of your attack range, you're going to be dealing 2 ticks of damage, and if they are closer than that, you're going to be dealing 3 ticks of damage. So then I just hopped on over to the diagram, and I essentially created another circle that was 84.6% of the size of the original circle, and that gives us a good indicator on this diagram of where the cutoff is between dealing 3 ticks of damage and 2 ticks of damage. But there's a lot more zones we still have to consider. So I went in and did this exact same process, taking screenshots right before and right after the boundary where the amount of damage changes from a certain number of ticks to a different number of ticks. And then I just averaged the ratios of those two to determine exactly where in the attack range that number switches over. And then I just put down those circles onto the diagram, and this is the final result. And I even took the time to color code it because I'm just that nice of a person. So that green range is basically the sweet spot where you're going to be dealing 3 ticks of damage. The sort of yellowish spots is going to be where you're dealing 2 ticks of damage, and the orange spots on the ends are where you're only going to be dealing 1 tick of damage. So obviously if you want to get all that juicy damage off, you're definitely going to want to put your opponent in that center spot. But what does that actually correlate to in tiles? So this actually isn't going to be too difficult to figure out. We know based on online statistics that the range of M's is 6 2/3 tiles, but we already have the sort of ratios at where these circles are positioned within the entire attack range. So if we just take those 6 2/3 tiles and multiply it by that ratio that I gave you in the beginning, for example 85%, then 85% of 6 2/3 tiles is going to be 5.6 tiles. So whenever your opponent is 5.6 tiles or farther away from you, they will be taking 2 ticks or less of damage. And then once again, we just keep multiplying the ratios by that max range of 6 2/3 tiles, and we find out that after 6.4 tiles, your opponent only takes 1 tick of damage or none at all if they're outside of your range completely. At 3.2 tiles, your opponent is right in that sweet spot, and after 1.8 tiles, they're in the other 2-tick zone. and then of course when they're any closer to you than that, they're going to be taking 1 tick of damage. Now one thing that is important to note is that your opponent's hitbox has to be entirely behind the lines that are indicated on this diagram in order to take that specified amount of damage. So for example, if they're situated like right on top of the line between the 1.8 tile and the 3.2 tile section, then they're actually going to take 2 ticks of damage because they're not yet fully behind that line and into the 3.2 zone. But if they're on line between the 3.2 and the 5.6 zone, then they'll actually take the full 3 ticks of damage. So basically this shows you the exact amount of distance you want to be away from your opponent. You're going to want a full 3.2 tiles of space in between your hitbox and your opponent's hitbox. And at max, you only want 5.6 tiles in between. So 3.5 or 4 to 5 tiles is definitely a very good spot that you want to be in order to deal the most possible damage to your opponent. And EMS deals a lot of damage when you can master this. Once EMS is maxed out, you can actually deal 7,000 damage with just 3 attacks if you're able to get 3 ticks of damage off on your opponent every single time. So it is very important to take these exact distances into consideration. I hope this diagram is helpful, but that's gonna wrap it up for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and a comment down below if you did like this and want to see more, and don't forget to subscribe. But that's all for today, guys, so see you later.